Hey y'all, welcome to episode 31 of the Stay at Home Son podcast. And today we have a very special episode today, and I'm really excited for it. We are going to be reviewing and talking to the creator of the short film Skinbound. Now, this film had a lot going on. I really enjoyed watching it, and I think it had a lot of cool messages in it as well. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I guess the first question I have for you is, what was the inspiration behind this film?
Oof, that's a good question. I would say the most inspiration I took from was when I was probably 14 or 13, when I was like during the whole teenager phase. I was terrified of the sight of being, you know that feeling when you are looking at a whole bunch of people, like a crowd, and you have this feeling of you're one of them, but you are like in a sense, spectator of this whole humongous collective that is almost identical, right? So I don't know if it's kind of weird to explain it, but I was terrified of that feeling, like to feel the same, like ants, so to say. So that was my main inspiration to write the original story, and that evolved into being like uh more alienated within this civilization, these weird times that we live in.
Yeah, no, definitely. I get what you're saying, especially that the fact you were feeling that when you were 14. Because I remember when I was around that age, everything's coming at you fast, and you're trying to figure out who you are, and it's almost overwhelming when you see all these different people and all these different people living almost like in unison, different lives. So it's hard to like kind of find your place in the world, and that can be kind of scary. It's always seemed as like, oh, a positive thing, finding your place in the world, but no, that could be very terrifying, especially when you're young and don't have a lot of experience. So I think that's really cool that you were able to take such a personal thing that you had in your youth and you were able to bring it into a film. So kudos to you for that. And the first question I got too, next question I got now is how'd you go about casting for this film? Because it didn't have a whole lot of cast, which I like. I like films that don't have a whole lot of people. So how were you able to go about casting?
Um, First, I appreciate the words. Second, yeah, the casting was very interesting. So at the beginning, I was working on this by myself, but Romina, who was the casting support that I had for the film, helped me tremendously in searching for the right person. So we did a casting call actually. We tried to do it as professional as possible, even though we were as amateur as it can get. So we made a casting call on Facebook, Instagram, a whole bunch of actors groups on the internet, and we received a ton of people that were interested in the script. And I found that it was very humbling in that sense. I appreciated the interest that it got. So I eventually got to a couple of candidates. On Diego, who is Samuel, I fell in love with his interpretation. He actually did a casting tape, and we thought he's amazing. We have to work with him, and I couldn't be more grateful for finding him and for him to join the project. As for Amparo, she was also very sweet. She was also um, very interested in joining the project because here in Chile, we don't have many um, projects that delve into more psychological horror, I would say. So it's more like mainstream cinema. So I think actors and actresses are very eager to explore new ideas, right? So I think both of them found a very interesting concept, and I couldn't be more grateful for their interest, and it worked pretty well in the end.
Yeah, and something that I really liked about this film and the acting in this film was, it is a short film, so you're trying to get as much as you can in a short amount of time, which is very hard to do as a director. So you did a good job making it flow coherently and stuff like that. But they're very expressive, and in a film that doesn't isn't super dialogue heavy, you really need actors that can really say things with their facial expressions and eyes, and you can kind of almost see how they're feeling, especially because it's very kind of a reactive film. And I really think they did an amazing job on that. So was that something you coached them through? Like we really want to have that really good expressions, or were they like, let's retake it and get that, or did they just naturally pick that up? Because I thought that really made the film.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I think it was a mixture because at the start of filming, I started working with them, and saying to them that they should own the character. So I actually told Diego that he should start to embrace Samuel as a person and trying to figure out who he was, right? Because I had like an idea on my initial script versions, but at the end they are going to be the characters, right? So I wanted them to build in their minds what the characters would be, just apart from what we see in the scenes, right? But at the during the process of filming, we were talking about everything. Actually, I even delve into their own personality as human beings and try to extract that, for example, sense of alienation, or for example, their sadness, or their how to say struggles, their human struggles, and to bring them into the scene. And I think that was a very interesting approach because, like you said, it was very expression wise, expression oriented, so not very reliant on dialogue. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think it was an important part. Sorry,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I agree with all that you're saying. I just think because we have a lot of filmmakers that come on and we try to give them as much advice as we can. And I think the best way to get advice is from other filmmakers. And I would tell filmmakers that if they are going to watch this film, they should take notes on it, on just how important that expressiveness is on those short films. Because like I said, you don't have a lot of time to work with on these short films. So if you can say a lot without saying too much and keeping the story going through with expressions, it really makes a better watch experience. So I would definitely tell our filmmakers to check that out on this short film when they watch it and kind of take notes of how to do that. And one question I had for you too is when it got kind of creepy when the skin started moving and when it was all like all hell was starting to break loose a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you do practical effects on that or was that studio effects? How were you able to do that? Because it really took me by surprise. I was like, wow, that like the pretty well done.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. It was all practical. It was like a mixture of shampoo. It was a mixture of soap, and believe it or not, condoms even. So yeah,
Wow.
we went all practical. Helen Duran, who was the person in charge of practical effects, she did it all. Like she was all on board with the ideas. We were even toying with the idea of putting Diego, the actor for Samuel, in a plastic bag and like sealing him, and try to do this idea of being trapped into this stomach of the creature, the embryo, as I call him. So yeah, eventually that didn't make it, but we were working with condoms, and we also were working with this rubber thing, right? We used like an industrial tube, and we toyed around it, and yeah, eventually we got to play with light, and we got the result, which in my opinion, it was very good. It's very believable, if I can say so myself. So yeah, I appreciate that you liked it, and it's full practical, so we didn't want to meddle with digital effects because that's a whole new monster, right?
Yeah, no, I could tell it had that practical look because it looks so real, and it really took me by surprise. Like, wow, that's really well done. So, kudos to anyone who was involved in that part of the project for sure. Because I know how long it can take with those practical effects, and anytime they come out good, it's just so much better than having to do it in the studio. Because it just looks real. It's also it's more of an experience when you get to make your own effects like that too. So I applaud you for being able to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a whole experience, and it can get very expensive though. but
Oh, oh yeah.
that's Yeah, but it's very fun because it's like you are there, we were all dirty, with this fake blood and the shampoo and the soap, but it was very fun because I got to try the prototype version of this seal bag, and it's a lot of experimentation, and the result you get, it's very different from what you do through a computer, right? So yeah, it's definitely, and it adds value, right? Because I think nowadays people like practical effects more than digital, right? So I think we wanted to keep it grounded in that sense.
Most definitely. And, I don't know the stories y'all have up there, but down here when I was doing practical effects for my first feature film, if practical effects will have you in the most random places, you'll be at a dollar store getting something, Walmart getting something. It's like you'll be all over getting like, oh, we could use this here. So it's just such a fun way, especially on like a smaller budget film, like indie film, and just like a community, you're building it with your people that you like and stuff. Like going and having that experience of like all together trying to make the props. I just love it. You really can't beat it. So that's just great. And what was the best day on set? Was there one scene that was really satisfying? I mean, probably these, but was there one scene that was really satisfying in the film? Like, wow, you were really proud of your cast that day.
Oh man, I would say because it was a pretty short filming time, but I would say towards the end where we had to finally show the creature, the embryo, I think that was the most fun part because in my mind I had like the scene, right? When I was writing it and when we were filming it, I was itching to get to that part, right? With the presentation of the creature when Samuel looks directly at it. And I think it was both visually and thematically important to me. So I would say that Diego was a shining star in that part because I had to give him barely any notes. He understood the character completely. He was fully immersed, and he went all in, right? So I was very appreciative of the whole experience, and the whole crew actually was like very on board with everything. And we were filming, damn, I would say 2 a.m. in the morning. And we started very early. So we were all tired. We were very fed up with the whole process, right? But at the end, we were like, this is it. And everyone was understanding of the whole process, what we were trying to achieve. And I would say that was the most fun part. Like everything was packaged and it felt like in a more, how can I say this? In a more, uh, closure way, so to say, right? So yeah, I would say that that was the most fun part, like seeing all the practical effects into effect, right, into this scene, and of course, yeah, going all out. So yeah, I would say that.
Gotcha. And I always like to ask filmmakers this question as well because when I'm watching a film, I always like to rewatch it after I've talked to the filmmaker because there's little things I'll say, oh, I remember him talking about that, and now I see it a different
Right.
way. So, was there a scene that was really, really hard to film and it just took a bunch of takes a bunch of times? Like, was there one scene that in particular that was like super difficult that maybe people didn't think would be super difficult?
Hmm. I would say the parts of during the night because we had to play a lot with lightning. So at the beginning, it was hard to get the right lighting, and we had a limited space. The apartment where we filmed wasn't very spacious, so we had to play around with that. Because the scenes that happened during the office of Amparo, that were filmed during day, they weren't very hard to film. We had everything practiced. And it was very hot though, because we filmed that during summer. So and we had like the AC barely working. So yeah, it was hell. But aside from that, I would say in a technical aspect, yeah, the night scenes were the most difficult, especially to get like feeling comfortable with this whole idea because Samuel is like someone who is not doing very well, right, mentally. So you can see that his apartment is a mess, really, right? You can see pizza slices on the desk, right? Or well, he is watching pornography at the start. We That's the first thing we see from his intimacy, right? So I would say that was very interesting to get the whole crew and the actor Diego to get comfortable with those concepts, and especially towards the end that he it's a very intimate scene where he sees that he's at himself at the bathroom, right? So I would say that to play with this more intimate and more vulnerable side was the most complicated thing to achieve.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I really thought the lighting was good on the dark scenes too, because I see a lot of these films, and then when they're doing night scenes, it's like I'm just looking at a black screen, but you did a really good job of having like that practical light, and I would see the face expressions, and I could kind of see without still having, because you want it to be dark, you want that sensory deprivation, but you did a good job. So all that extra time you put in on getting the lighting right on those dark scenes, it really did pay off. So good job to you on that for sure.
Thank
And
you, appreciate that.
yeah, of course. And then I guess the last question I have for you is what's the future for this film? You got any festivals lined up, anything like that? And what's the best way for people to watch this and help support you?
Yeah, so Skinbound got the public release early this year. During 2025, we were going through festivals, local festivals, and it got into festivals in Brazil, United Kingdom, and I'm missing one out, and I can't remember. But it had its run, right? So my main objective was to publicly release it during this year, and you can find it on YouTube and Vimeo. And actually got a limited release here in Chile from Onda Media, which is a national platform. But for everyone else in the world, you can catch it on YouTube and Vimeo, and you can search Skinbound film, short film.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I think we had a lot of cool information, a lot of great discussion about a really great film, and I would recommend everyone back home to check this out. Give him a follow. I'll link all his stuff at the description below. I want to thank you for coming on again, and remember, stay at home.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yep.